Hey, thanks so much for tuning in to this week's episode of On Purpose Marketing, a podcast for purpose driven solopreneurs who are looking for a simpler, more aligned, more fun way to market their business online. If you've ever felt like your business is running you instead of the other way around, you can raise your hand right now, right alongside me. Um, you're not alone. And I think you're going to love today's conversation with Gia. We're going to be talking all about capacity, what it actually means, how to recognize when you're hitting your limits, and how to create more space proactively in your business without having to overhaul everything. Now, if we've never met before, I'm your host, Laura, owner of Laura Rae Consulting. I am a funnel builder and meta ad strategist, and I'd love the opportunity to help you optimize your marketing so that you can attract higher quality leads and clients. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce you and welcome our guest host, Gia, owner of Gia Rose Digital. Gia, can you just start us off by sharing a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so like you said, I am the owner of Gia Rose Digital. I help social media managers with their content and capacity. So a big portion of what I do is I am the person you call that you white label when you are drowning in client work, your work is falling to the bottom of the list, and I help you prioritize your own content and take some of that client work off of your plate as well. I'm a mom of 3, homeschool, and so I work at home and juggle motherhood every single day.
I love that. Yeah. Yeah. Gia's kids are in the other room.
They're
And
fighting, so
to be honest, I absolutely love that. I really, really do, because it just shows that you can do both. You can be a mom and you can run a business, and a really awesome
absolutely.
one at that. Gia is amazing to her clients.
Thank
She's
you.
she's amazing. So to dive into the concept of capacity, I'd love to just hear your take on it. So when you hear the word capacity, what does that actually mean to you in your life?
For me, it's how much of whatever thing it is, a lot of times it's work is the context I'm talking about it in. How much do I have time for? Can I handle? And sometimes it's even more than just the time that goes into it. It can be like the emotional and mental capacity that you have for something too, because that does take it all takes a lot of your energy, really.
Yeah, I agree. And like when you're thinking about subtle signs that someone's hitting their capacity, like what are some of those signs?
Well, things kind of start to slip through the cracks more, and it might not be so noticeable at first, but then it becomes noticeable. You're putting things off one day, you don't really notice. When it's next week, next month, and you have a pile of whatever it is that you have to deal with, it's like, oh, shoot, how did that happen? So, things start to easily slip through the cracks. And then also with that emotional side of things, a lot of times you can start to become more irritable, I find. I know that I do. When I start to get stressed, I'm like being maxed out. It's just like my fuse for dealing with certain things like the way I want to deal with them, it starts to change a little bit. So, that can definitely affect that side of things when you are reaching your capacity.
Yeah, I definitely find that for myself too, where it's like my family kind of gets the grunt of it, unfortunately.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that's so the last thing that you want to do, but oh, they do get the grunt of it sometimes.
Yeah.
And I agree, dropping the ball is definitely one of the signs for me when
Mhm.
I'm hitting my capacity, balls are dropping. That's why I try to be super intentional with how many clients I'm taking on at one time, who I'm letting in on my schedule, like how many calls I have booked in a week because yeah, it's real, especially for us service providers. I think when we have a lot of client work on our desk, if
Mhm.
we're at capacity and we're needing a Gia to step in the gap for us, currently, it's when we're dropping balls and we're forgetting projects or like forgetting tasks. So I
Absolutely, and I find that, like you said, with service providers, you are head down doing work for everybody else, and kind of one of the first things to go is anything that has to do with your own business. It's just not as urgent as client work, it just never is. So, that's that's a really sure sign, you know?
Yeah. As a service provider and a freelancer, like for the last, what, 6 years, that is my biggest struggle is working on my own business and finding
Mm,
capacity to actually like post on social media and things like that. I'm
mhm.
significantly better at that.
Oh, absolutely. Even just like, you know, and I experienced that too. It's like you can be so good at what it is you do and so good at doing it for other people. And when it comes to doing it for yourself, it's like, womp womp. Like what happened there, you know?
Yes, I'm sure everybody listening is like, "Oh, yep, that's me." And, like, I find that many solopreneurs, myself included, don't notice that we have a capacity issue until we're already in too deep, when we're dropping those balls, when we are irritable with our families. And I think that's why it's so important to have conversations like this and just be real about it because there's no use in ignoring the problem or pretending
Mhm.
it's not there.
Right. Right. It doesn't help anybody. So
Right. So let's talk a little bit about like why we do this to ourselves.
okay.
Like, why do we ignore this problem? To me, there is a reason why we push past our capacity. And I want to get a little bit deeper into that. I want to get to the heart of it. So, why do you think that solopreneurs push past their capacity so often?
Well, I think like the main reason is because you're doing work that's important to you, you know, and you want to help as many people as you can. Also, if you're a solopreneur, like you started your business alone, you're used to doing everything on your own. And oftentimes you kind of feel like you have to continue doing it on your own. Sometimes it's just that's what's normal. Keep running with it. Because if I don't do it, it's going to all fall apart.
Yeah. 100%. I loved what you said there about just we as purpose-driven solopreneurs, we want to help. Like we are helpers. We are stereotypically overachievers as well. And so we're like go 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 go.
Mhm.
But I think there's also sometimes a pressure that comes with it where it's like for me in particular, I like to do things a little bit against the grain. I like to be that disruptor. And so I'm like, yeah, I can do this all by myself. Like hear me roar.
Right.
Okay. And it's like, no, Laura, you are on the path to burnout.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Like, I can do this, and
Yeah,
if so and so's doing it, I sure can do it.
right? And for me, like my partner in his work, it's very physically taxing. I think
Mhm,
the work that we do on the marketing side is more mentally taxing. And
mhm.
a lot of times with my work, I feel like I have to consistently go, 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 go because A, it's marketing. It kind of never stops. But
It
also
never stops, yeah.
there's this mindset of, okay, well, I need to make sure that the bills get paid and
Mhm.
I need to make sure that I'm supporting my partner because, there's lots of medical things that he's gone through over the years and so there's this mindset of if I don't do this right now at 6 p.m. at night or 7 p.m. at night or 11 p.m. at night, um that things are going to slip through the cracks financially. And I think
Yeah,
a lot of solopreneurs have that pressure to make sure that they stay above water, especially when they're first getting started. And I think that's an important thing to recognize too is are you at capacity because you feel this pressure?
I totally agree with you. Knowing that, like, not just your livelihood, but your family's livelihood is kind of riding on your ability to make a sale to keep your business going, it can be a lot of pressure that maybe your family's not even putting on you. Maybe your spouse or your partner, they're not putting on you, you're putting it on yourself. Because I really relate to what you're saying. Like in my case, my husband did have a very physically taxing job as well. And I wanted him to be able to be home more and spend more time together as a family and, not have to work the 12, 14-hour days. And so I think you totally like hit the nail on the head with that pressure that we have of needing to make a living, really, and wanting a certain lifestyle, not even if it's a very like extravagant lifestyle, but just to where everything's paid for. You can have the dynamic at home that you want. I think yeah, totally is a lot of pressure there that we put on ourselves.
Yeah. Well, and a part of my story is that I got pregnant really young with my daughter Tessa, and so I've kind of always been in hustle mode. It's like, "Okay,
Yeah.
well, we gotta get this together because we want her to have a good life."
Hmm.
Despite the fact that we had her when we were way too young to have her, you know?
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm so proud that I've been able to do that for, her whole life. She's 14, like, that's a lot of
Yeah,
years.
that's amazing. That's a long
But
time. Yeah.
at the same time, it's like they aren't the ones putting the pressure on us, and sometimes we need
No, yeah.
to, like, give ourselves some grace. So if you are listening right now and you're thinking to yourself, "I am putting a lot of pressure on myself that nobody else is putting on me. I need to maybe reevaluate or journal or maybe if it's like, just talking to somebody about it, I think can be
Yeah,
really helpful. Because that is, I think, a huge reason why we go over capacity.
I think so, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I feel like most of us start our business for freedom, for flexibility, and then
Uh,
end up feeling more restricted. Like we feel this pressure to keep going, like we've been talking about. So that begs the question, like, what does it actually look like to protect that flexible lifestyle that we're looking for while also still being able to achieve the maybe financial aspect of life that we want to get to, but we're also not looking to overhaul everything in our business right now. Like I know that the solopreneurs listening in are not like I want to rehaul everything in my business. So I kind of want to transition to just talking about how can we create little shifts in our business that can help us create capacity. So, when you're working with your clients, what are some small shifts that you think solopreneurs could take to create more capacity?
I like that you specified small because so many of the small adjustments that we make, like, really do add up to saving time. Like, you think if I can shave it off a couple minutes here or there, is that really gonna make a difference? But if you're doing that task multiple times a day, if you're doing it multiple times a week, that's potentially, like, hours that you could save. So the big thing is being intentional and putting white space in your calendar, room where there's nothing. Now, that's not necessarily something that's small because that can take a lot of effort. But if you're finding yourself doing the same thing over and over, is there a way that you can make it more simple? Can you use a template for something that you're doing? Can you make it into an automation? Those are things that I think that a lot of us solopreneurs and especially service providers, there's a lot of things that we do take care of that can either be automated or templated. And that it'll be, little amounts of time saved, but over the course of a week, a month, that can save a lot of time. And having those things in place, I think, is also nice too, because when you do get to a point where you decide maybe you do want to outsource, having those things in place helps everything be consistent for you, no matter who's doing the task. I think those are some good ways. So, like templates where it makes sense, automations where it makes sense, and some white space if you can. That's a big thing that I know we'll get into that later too.
Yeah, and from the marketing side of things, like when I'm working with my clients, um, I'm kind of in my own business right now. I'm really transitioning the way that I think about, for example, social media or organic marketing. Um, the way that I've really created some extra just capacity for that is by making it more fun for myself. Is by
Yeah.
self permission to do it differently than everybody else. I call it inspired marketing because
Mhm.
I send emails when I'm inspired to do so, when I have something to say. I post to my stories when, again, I'm inspired and have something to say. I post a thread at 11 p.m. at night and get followers because I'm sharing my immediate thought. I'm not scheduling things out. Not to say that scheduling things out isn't great for people that it
Right.
works for. It's not saying that creating batch content couldn't also create capacity in your
Right.
business. But for me, It's all about looking at the individual, like, really
Mhm.
acknowledging the way that you are interacting with it, because what I noticed in my own business was that I wasn't doing social media at all because I was overwhelmed by the task of batching my content or creating content.
Yes.
Okay? Because I pivoted, I'm now seeing much greater return on those profiles, on those assets.
I think that's a great point to mention because it's really easy to say batch content once, and you're good for a month. That doesn't work for everybody's brain, lifestyle. It's you're being more intentional with the content that you are putting out there. And I love that because realistically, like that's going to have, I think across the board, we could pretty generally say that's going to have a better return than something that's not so intentional that doesn't light you up. People can sense that. So I think that's important too, to not have so much pressure on yourself sometimes.
I think that can apply to other systems in your business too,
Yeah.
not just marketing. Obviously, I'm coming
Right.
from a marketing standpoint, but to be honest, I think that we really have to evaluate how things are making us feel. Like at the end of the day, if something feels really off kilter, we have to have the instinct to pivot quickly. Otherwise,
Mhm.
into a bad habit. Um, and yeah, that's my encouragement to those who are maybe feeling a little bit um at capacity in different areas of business.
We want to enjoy our business. And when it starts to become something that just is, whether it takes a lot of time or not, this kind of goes back to that like capacity can be an emotional or mental thing. If it's just like dragging you down emotionally, it's like, why am I doing it this way?
Right. Exactly. Like we're building these businesses to give us more joy than our 9 to 5 did. So
Right.
that question, like, if we are miserable in our businesses, why wouldn't we just go get another 9 to 5 where we're gonna be miserable and we can have secure income?
Right.
You know what I
Exactly.
mean?
That is the
Well,
truth.
yeah. So, just going back to the topic of white space, because I think it's important. Can you just explain what it looks like to intentionally build white space into your schedule?
Yeah. So to put it simply, like you want some empty space in your day and in your week. Not slamming your calendar absolutely full. And I know that sometimes that's really hard to do, like especially if you are in a place where you are maxed out with your capacity. So if that's you right now, I don't want you to feel like, oh, this is one more thing I'm failing at because you're not. And like you will get to the other side of it, and it starts with baby steps, and like once you get out, then you can really start to be even more intentional and like see that like reward of having more time and just not being so stressed about business all the time. When we are able to, block an hour where it's just like, okay, I don't put anything in this like time slot for the day, or I don't schedule anything on this day of the week, whatever works for you, because it's so unique, to each individual and what we have going on in our life. It's not going to look the same for everybody. But when you do have that time that you're like securing there as a buffer, kind of, honor that time and try not to just like, "Oh, well, yeah, I have free time, so sure I can put another client there." It's and that can be the hard part is like honoring the time off that you have set aside because it really is important to have. Things take longer than you think they do, and things always pop up. So having that blank space in the calendar allows kind of for that overflow of, okay, something took longer. Well, it's okay because I planned for that. Something popped up, which I like to call my hot chocolate incidents based on a real experience. Those always happen, especially when you have kids. Even if you don't have children, there's always things in life that are popping up unexpectedly that you have to deal with. So knowing that you can kind of move things around, that's why that white space, even if it's a little bit, is so important.
It really is. Again, classic freelancer here. I've stereotypically been really bad about that in my business. I have basically since going full time, I have set aside Thursdays as like we are not taking any calls. We are not doing anything on those
Mhm.
days. And that has worked really well. That being said, there was a piece of advice that I received when I first started full time, and I loved it. I haven't implemented it, but I love it nonetheless. I think that some of you may need this. But she had said she alternates weeks where she'll take calls. So she alternates the weeks because she knows if she were to take calls every single week, she would be struggling in terms of just energy and having the ability to do good work for her clients. And so she says, okay, I'm only taking calls on this week. And then the following week, there are no face-to-face calls, no coffee chats, no networking events, nothing. She's just heads down working during those weeks. And being that a lot of my clients need, weekly strategy sessions because I'm helping them with meta ads and we're looking at data
Yeah,
time. It's maybe not as realistic, but at the same time, I think there are some people listening where that could be game changer for you.
absolutely. I mean, I'm like, that sounds good to me. That is great advice. I actually haven't really heard that. I mean, which it's kind of funny because it's like, well, yeah, you can do what you want, but that is great advice. While you were saying that, I was thinking again to anyone listening, it doesn't have to be perfect. You sparked that idea in me when you said that it might not be realistic for you to have every other week off from calls, but like the things that you implement doesn't have to be perfect to help. It doesn't have to be that intense. But I guess that just goes back to being intentional with, like, making the little moments count, and it doesn't have to look
Yeah.
like someone else's schedule.
Literally in my newsletter this week, I wrote all about you do not have to build a business that looks like everybody else's.
Mhm.
Like, it's getting kinda boring. Let's be real
Yeah.
here. Like, we need some spark. We need some some disruptors out there.
Yes.
That's that's one thing that I love helping clients with is just being able to look at their personality, their business, like, what are you good at? And how can we, create systems and create funnels and create different strategies that work best for you? And I think a lot of people are just trying to fit this cookie cutter mold
Mhm.
they're not fitting into.
I guess there's just so much noise online, and a lot of us, like solopreneurs, we are looking to online to getting that interaction with people because a lot of us are at home in our cave doing the work by ourselves all day, every day. But that comes with, a lot of that noise and thinking you have to do things a certain way. But making your business fit into your life and not your life into your business is so important because we do all think so differently. Our brains work differently. So it's like so important to make it work for you
Yeah.
specifically. Yeah.
I'll 100% agree there. So, as we kind of wrap up,
Hmm.
what what's the simplest way that somebody can start creating more breathing room this week?
So I think that the first thing to do is to look for if you do have wiggle room in your calendar this week and protect it at all costs. And the second thing is, what can I get help with? And getting help can look like outsourcing. It doesn't have to look like outsourcing or hiring, but getting help can look 100 different ways for 100 different price points. And getting help where it makes sense to with what you can. If it's something that you don't absolutely have to be the person to do. Um, I think that's like a really good first step. And even if it's just like calculating how much can I realistically take on each week and just knowing that, like, I can take on this many clients, I can take on this many hours of work, however you work in your business. Having that number is like really what saved me in my business. I know that, like, okay, I cannot go over this many clients per week, and just sticking to that no matter what, even if it's like, oh, I can probably do it. Don't do it. There's wait lists for a reason, I know, I feel like I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent, but
No,
just
I
like
like the tan
really protecting what little bit of wiggle room you have if you can find it. Like, that's the first step, really.
Yeah, I love the point that you made too, where we have to be analyzing how many hours can we be working? How many hours do we want to be working?
Right.
Um, you know, and I think a lot of times, especially newer solopreneurs, just take what they can get.
Yeah.
And sometimes they get overloaded. I've been there for sure. So evaluating and to be honest, I think sometimes those moments are needed. We have to learn where our
Mhm.
capacity is reached to be able to pivot and make those shifts. So if you are at the beginning of your journey in building your business, it's okay if there are moments where you feel a little bit "Ugh,
Yeah.
not great because
Yeah.
you have to learn those lessons. When
Yeah.
I first went full time, I was doing all of the things. I was offering website redesign, I was offering SEO, I was offering social media, I was doing all of these things. And I very quickly realized, no, no, ma'am, that's not for me. Like I am not taking on projects like that anymore. Maybe every once in a while I'll do a website optimization project or something like that. But I'm not making websites my thing anymore.
Right.
Like I am the landing page designer. I am going to help you run those meta ads and get you all those leads so that you can do some wonderful email marketing. And that's what I'm going to own. But I had to do everything and feel the heaviness of that and feel the weight
Mhm.
of that. In order to make that pivot and feel really, really good about it. So if you are at the beginning, or even if you're 5 years in or 10 years in and you're feeling a little iffy, it's okay. You're just learning lessons.
Yeah, no, I agree with that because I've definitely been there myself. And like you said, I think we all go through it. And it's just like it teaches us what we want to offer, specialize in, what projects are not worth it to us, and like how long does it really take? Because I had to get really honest with myself. I was like, yeah, I can get this project done in like this many hours, or, and like try to figuring it out. And when I was like really paying attention and figuring out how long does it actually take, it's like, no wonder I got so burnt out because it's like I'm shoving 100 hours worth of work into what's supposed to be 20 hours. I mean, that's maybe an
Yeah.
exaggeration, but you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, no wonder you're getting burnt out. But yeah, learning those lessons is important and just like totally being honest with yourself, even if it's like, I don't want to say this takes me this long, but if it does, like you got to know that. And there's no shame in it taking you longer or less time or whatever it is. It's just, it is what it is. It's neutral, it's not like morally bad. It's just data that you can use to help you have the life you want while running your business, really.
Well, and all the service providers said amen. Like truly. That
Yes.
is a very much a service provider's, problem. But when we're thinking about, like, coaches or educators, course creators, people like that, you also have to evaluate, "Okay, how long is it taking me to do my own marketing? How long is it taking me to
Mhm.
run these different systems in my business?" Because you know how long a coaching call is. Your coaching call
Mm.
is an hour. Now,
Yeah.
if you're like me, sometimes you book it for an hour and it goes to an hour and a half, 2
Mhm.
hours, and you have to be honest with yourself there too, uh,
Mhm.
because if your calls are running longer, then you need to account for that.
Mhm.
And
I think that's an important point too because like you deserve your best and your clients deserve your best, and just knowing what your capacity actually is and how long things take, and just honoring even that white space, like it really goes into like if you're doing something for your business, giving yourself your best because you deserve that, absolutely. You deserve your best shot, and your clients of course do too. So, you know overloading yourself, like, not only is it just not good for you, it's not good for your emotions, your mental load, like, your family, but it's not good for the other clients because we wanna give everybody, all of our paying clients our best, and we want to give ourselves our best too, which we kind of forget about sometimes, I think. We are really quick to push our own stuff to the side, but Yeah, you deserve your best.
Mhm. Well, as we wrap up today, I think that my biggest takeaway here is that capacity isn't just about doing less. It's about
Mhm.
being more intentional with how you spend your time,
Absolutely. Yeah.
about making room for the things that matter to you. And that's where freedom comes back into the picture. It's what we're all aiming for. It's why we started our businesses in the first place. So, any kind of final thoughts from you, Gia?
The one thing that I would remind anybody who's listening of is that you will make it out the other end. I know that it can feel so overwhelming, but like you will get through it. Like if you're working through being at your max capacity right now, you will come out and you can start like implementing more of these things. And also that like you don't have to do it alone. You know, there's no shame in asking for help, whatever that looks like for you. Even if it's like, can you watch the kids while I go take care of this. Like, that's really easy. It might be hiring, it might, be different things, but no shame in asking for help and you will get through it. And then you can start to implement what you're learning.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I was actually just thinking to myself, it, it it doesn't always involve hiring. I think
Mm-mm.
there's a season of business where it turns to hiring.
It
But
does. Yeah.
um in my business right now where I'm at, sometimes it's networking. It's finding
Hmm.
like-minded service providers where if I wanted to tap on Gia's shoulder and say, "Hey, like how are you handling this in your business?" I know she's going to answer me. I know that
Hmm.
she's gonna give me her best advice because we're friends. Like we've gotten to know each other.
Right.
We
Yeah.
love Mary Duff. Like
We
you
do.
you know? So, like, to me, it's also about just making connections with like-minded
Hmm.
people where they are generous and
Hmm.
they're kind, and they're gonna be willing to, give you a little advice here and there without charging you for it. And not
Right.
that, if I needed content creation, I would be paying Gia. We also have to be honoring people's skills and talents,
Right.
but there are moments where you can just literally send a little voice memo or a little DM on Instagram and say, "Hey, like I'm struggling with this. Like, do you have any initial advice?"
I
And
think that's a great reminder because sometimes we're so in the thick of it that it's like you and so close to your own business that it's like I can't see clearly and then it's like, "Oh, yeah, this person's other viewpoint." It's like, "Yeah, why did I not think of that?" And it can be so helpful. I think that's really really important too.
yeah. And if you're feeling very like alone in your business right now, I think that's a very common problem for solopreneurs. I
Mhm.
will tell you, Threads has been pretty game changer.
Oh, yeah. I
I think
agree.
I got all of my best business friends through Threads.
Yeah, I love
Everybody's
Threads.
very real there and raw, and you can find some pretty awesome solopreneurs. So if you are feeling in the thick of it, you could totally reach out to Gia and myself, and we could
Yes.
probably be so down for a
Oh,
little
yeah.
a little chat.
Oh,
But
anytime, yeah.
but Threads, it's a good place to be. Let me
It
tell you.
is. It is for sure. I've made some of the best connections on Threads and yeah, never giving that up.
No, definitely the best platform out there right now.
I think it is, honestly, really. I mean, it without going, too far off on a tangent, but it's just like it it brings that real conversation back to social media, I feel like, Instagram has gotten so just like all you see in the comments like, sometimes I'll be in the comments looking to engage or start a conversation. It's just like, whatever word
Yep.
thousands of comments for, like, whatever word they said to comment for the free guide or whatever, and that's great, that's wonderful, that's a great, part of business, but I'm like, "I wanna talk to
And
somebody, I wanna have a conversation," and Threads, I feel like, has really brought that back, so couldn't
yeah,
agree
I
more.
could not agree more. Yeah, I gotta love too when you comment on an Instagram post and you actually say something real and you just get an automated response back.
Oh, yeah, that's happened
Like,
to me a few
"Thanks so much
times.
for applying," and I'm like, "I'm not applying, but okay."
Think so.
Oh,
Yeah.
goodness.
Ah,
So, Gia, just to wrap up, do you wanna just, again, just let people know where to find you? Um,
yeah.
let them know, how you can support them. And if there's any resources that you want to highlight, this is your time to do so.
Okay, well, you can find me on Threads and Instagram at Gia Rose Digital, and my website is giarosedigital.com. And again, I can help support you specifically with content design. I work with social media managers primarily, but I do work with different types of service providers as well who need support in their business, whether it's content for them or for their clients or whatever it may be. But yeah, that's how I support. I take some of that content work off of your plate. So that is my jam.
And most of us need that help. It does take a lot of time. It takes a lot of time.
It
Well,
does,
thank you so
yeah.
much for joining today, Gia, and thanks again for listening, everyone. Truly, if you want to get to know me a little bit more, you can also find me on Threads and Instagram via the handle Laura Rae Consulting. Like I said, I'm a funnel builder, an optimization strategist, and a meta ads manager, and I'd love to help you find your unique strategy so that you can have more fun in your business and find a little bit more freedom and flow in that process. But again, thanks for listening, everyone. Bye.
Thank you, Laura.